Hey everybody, you're listening to A to Z episode 52. Today's guest is Tom Wright, veteran SETX journalist.
It's like they're trying to be too meta.
We're gonna make them an offer they can't refuse.
Much better.
Yeah. You can buy you a drink. You can't just not
Well, I mean, he did pick out somebody we know.
Well, you sidestep the question. That technology does not exist.
Hey guys, I'm Zach. I'm here with Aaron. Welcome to A to Z. If this is your first time listening, thanks for checking us out.
A to Z is produced sort of weekly, and show notes can be found at atozpodcast.com. If you like what you hear, feel free to hit subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or a host of any other places where you get your podcast fix.
And you can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at A to Z BMT, where you can find updates, clips, extra content. We also have the Facebook group A to Z Podcast Group, where there's a little more interaction. Also, a reminder, A to Z Movie Night has moved to its own app, or its own subscribe thing.
That's right. So if you want to continue getting those episodes, you have to go click an extra subscribe button.
Yeah. And then they also have A to Z Movie Night, the groupening Facebook group. But this episode, this week, will be Mr. Tom Wright.
Yeah, veteran journalist, veteran guy. He's been around for a long time here in this area.
Yeah, 30 plus years doing news for the Southeast Texas area. Also,
That's right.
A smothering of other things to listen to now. He's also a drone pilot at this point, but these are all things that we'll get into.
FAA compliant now. That's what happens. So yeah, as you can tell, we talk about drones. We also the first half of the show is kind of like we talk about where he started and where he is now and the differences of then and now in terms of the landscape of journalism. So if that interests you, that's what you'll get. And then in the second half, we kind of take a 180 and we start talking about backpacking and stress and all kinds of stuff. But it was a really good story. So this episode, more than the others, is very different beginning and then the last part. So I hope you guys enjoy that.
Awesome. And if you like what you hear, hit subscribe, leave reviews and comments. We want to hear your feedback and enjoy this episode with Mr. Tom Wright.
Hey!
Okay. Well, we're recording now, so everybody welcome to A to Z.
Yeah.
We kind of had a rough plan, we kind of do like a two-parter thing. We'll talk for a little bit, then we'll take a break and regroup. And we were thinking about, for the first little bit, figuring out, I guess, who you are, and introducing yourself and how you got to where you are now. This is Tom Wright, and what is your title?
I'm the managing editor at KFDM TV, the news department.
And you've been in broadcast for how long?
I've been there for 33 years.
Just there for 33 years?
Yeah. I spent a brief period at the old KJAC in Port Arthur. It's who hired me.
Yeah.
K-Jack.
So I got to live in Groves for, it might as well have been Port Arthur, right across from the Boudin Hut for a couple of months. But
that's not too bad.
Yeah, it was all right. So then I got hired at Channel 6. I've been there ever since.
Yeah. So KJAC used to be a place that was out in Port Arthur a long time ago?
Yeah, really? It was. It was right at Memorial and Gulfway Drive.
That's crazy.
There was a converted movie theater that was turned into a TV station, and then it burned down, I don't know, 15 years ago or something, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, the station moved to the mall, and they changed their call letters. And And now...
Well, KJAC got bought by NBC or whatever the KBMT is now.
No.
Whenever I was working there, they bought KJAC. KJAC was broadcast out of there.
No, well...
Unless they just got the name.
Well, they did get the name, yeah. Yeah, you're right. There was a call letter switch.
Yeah.
Because KJAC became KBTV. And now that we're combined with KFDM. I mean, we're under the same ownership. It's all in our building on our set. Same people. I mean, basically, we're a combined news operation.
Right, it's the same news operation, but you just have different channels.
Yeah, and then you get into questions like, how do you brand it? Do you brand it differently? And I mean,
you just move it over here, and it's over there.
Yeah, I mean, so KFDM was the powerhouse. I mean, that's the brand that people know. So we wanted to kind of say, this is really us.
It's a little buddy.
But then, people come along and go, well, we got to differentiate it. And it's like, it just gets to be kind of confusing.
So how did you get to that point? Did you want to did you start as a reporter or?
Yeah, I reported for about 10 years.
Yeah.
And then we had some, there was a management opportunity in the newsroom and I could make more money.
Yeah.
And I said, that's pretty good. Gets me off the street. It's hard work out there.
How long were you doing a reporter?
About 10 years.
Because I think the first time that I hit you up to come do this was a couple months back. That you got some kind of some kind of tribute reel to you. Somebody collected a bunch of your highlight reels from your news days.
Yeah, that's the Texas Archive of the Moving Image, and it's a project to preserve moving images in Texas. It's a nonprofit based in Austin. So they came through the area. They went around the state and had a roundup, which is what they called, and they said you could bring in any kind of tape and they would transfer it digitally, which if you ever had to deal with, it's kind of a pain.
You gotta let it run, and
you do, and you have to be able to do it. You have to have a certain level of expertise and what have you. I mean, it's and then some of these tapes are formats that like you can't find.
Yeah, like,
there was beta, 3/4 inch, So I had a box of tapes and gave them to them, and then they digitized all that, and they actually create a space in their archive on it's accessible via the web.
I want to see if I can find a link to that, honestly.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I was like, because this stuff, we don't have 3/4 inch machines or beta, I don't think, anymore.
No,
that's about to say, good luck finding that, really.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, and so this is some of my history, and actually I have other stuff, but it's there was some stuff, video I took of my kids that I was glad I got off there, and some stories and some live stuff and stuff like that. That, occasionally if you work in news, you probably bring your camera home and shoot a little things.
Well, you got a nice camera, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that happens.
Cool
Practice, getting acquainted with the equipment and all that. So
that probably used to slide more than it does now, I imagine.
Yeah, it's pretty liberal. I mean, we don't put a whole lot of. I mean, you don't want to be out shooting porn. That would be a problem. But
you've been bringing your drone home and practice flying that.
There was actually a story about that at one of the stations that I worked at, where one of the guys that was there, he got fired because after hours they would use the studio to shoot.
Really?
Some sex tapes.
Well, that's crazy.
Bad idea.
Yeah, bad idea. You'll get caught.
I imagine.
I don't bring the drone home. No, I don't. I became a drone pilot a year and a half ago or something, and so it was a corporate initiative, and they were trying to get more drones in news operations, which cheaper than having a helicopter. Yeah. And they're like, you want to go learn to be a drone pilot? And I'm like, I had never thought twice about it. I've seen drone video, and I thought it was cool and all that.
It's really neat.
Like, So we go out to a school, and we go to Florida, and they put us through a day of it was all safety. And I don't know if you know anything about aviation culture. I didn't. But it's very safety oriented.
I would imagine.
Yeah. You start thinking about it, you're like, oh, that's a good idea. Yeah. And so, we go through the safety, and then we spend 2 days flying, and and at the end of this, all I could think about is that we have a 10-pound brick with whirling machetes and exploding batteries. What could possibly go wrong?
You strap a $2,000 camera to it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I actually crashed it. I did. It's true.
Are you the only one certified?
It was a crosswind. It wasn't you. It was a crosswind.
We have another gentleman at the station who's also a certified pilot. We have to have 2 certified pilots to fly. Yeah. And that's not by FAA regulations. You can have a certified pilot, and a visual observer who doesn't have to be a licensed pilot, but we, under corporate rules, have to have 2 certified pilots.
So going back, what got you to? Did you want to be a reporter? Did you want to work in the news and the broadcast? Like, what was it, a spark? Because obviously you like it. You've been there 33 years. You've probably been doing it longer than that, even.
So when I was in high school, and this is the part where I was going to tell you I worked for the high school newspaper or something, but I didn't. We certainly didn't have any broadcast equipment in high schools then. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I think in one of my, where you tell them what you want to do, I thought I was going to be an engineer, but math was really boring to me, even though everything said I'd probably be good at it if I really tried, but I didn't. So I really didn't know. And in-state in Missouri, where I grew up, is the University of Missouri, which has a really good journalism school. And one of my friends says we ought to go to journalism school there. And I was like, I literally had to look the word up.
Really?
Yeah. And I went, oh, that sounds kind of fun.
Yeah.
You know, when you, so at the university, when you get there, it's 2 years before you even go to journalism school. You have to do 2 years of liberal arts stuff and make the grades and be accepted into the school. So.
Right.
So I did that, and then once I got into it, I'm like, I was kind of hooked.
Yeah.
You know.
What's like gathering the information and telling the story, or? No,
I just wanted to be an enemy of the American people.
That is kind of the, okay.
Shoot.
So I met you through Buffalo Blonde, which is the band that you played at the Log On when I ran sound there, and I only like found out you did that, and whenever I found out that you worked for the Man, it didn't make sense because you seemed like such a punk rock kind of rebellious dude. You know, all the stuff they would talk about, any politics we would talk about. You seem to be not in that framework. But then here you are.
I think people in general who work in journalism, who are reporters, I think they're, and I don't want to use the word anti-establishment because I don't think that's right. I think you want the truth.
Yeah.
And that's a fight. And it's becoming more and more a fight. I don't think I'm an enemy of the American people. I think that it's exactly the opposite. I think that you have to work really hard to maintain a democracy. And the only way people can actually make decisions, if they ever decide to get off their butts and do something about it, is with facts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we've gotten to the point we can't even agree on what
facts are.
Yeah. I mean, it's gotten, well, and there's a lot of effort to confuse people about that.
Mm.
You know, I think for the first time in my life, I'm a little scared.
Really?
About all that. I'm a pendulum guy. And my theory was always like, well, you have this big pendulum out there, and so, you know, things start going this way, and then there's a counterforce, and it kind of moves back, and you know, I mean, I've seen that over the course of my life bear out, and that we would correct. I mean, we would get information, people would see it, they would think about it, and we would do something different.
But now you've seen it gone past a place you've never seen it go past, I guess.
I think I'm more concerned about the level of disengagement. And when a lot of people become disengaged, then you have a smaller number of people who can move that pendulum. I mean,
it's disengagement, not just giving up on trying to figure it out, but also not believing opposing viewpoints. That's disengagement, you know.
Yeah.
Not even fielding the argument.
It's easier to just read a headline from the only source of news you ever go to, and then that's it. That's the truth.
Yeah, just whatever that little blurb is.
Yeah. I mean, that's not vetting information. Mm-hmm. You have to put something into this. And I remember having a conversation with a woman I was going to get my eyes looked at and get some glasses, and she brought this up about she just doesn't know what to believe, and I'm like, well, you know, pick some opposing that you think are on this side and that side, and follow them, right? And then when you see that there's a discrepancy, dig a little deeper, right? I mean, put something into it.
Yeah.
And I realize that's work, and people don't want to do that.
No, they just want to be they just want to be told exactly what it is.
Or if they're faced with something they don't like, don't want to see, they just say, no, they can't be true, so I'm just not going to believe.
I think it's more along the lines of just we don't have the attention span anymore, honestly, like from the internet and everything so clickbaity and headliney like you were talking about. It's nobody wants to read, and nobody wants to actually put in the work, like you're saying. It's just, I don't have time, I don't have the attention span. I want to look at this top 10 food chains that millennials are killing right now. I don't really care about anything else.
Well, it's become so much more diffused too.
Yeah.
It used to be, when I was a kid, or even wasn't even a kid, into my adulthood, you
4, 6, and 12.
Yeah, I mean, you had 3 channels, right? TV. You had 1 or 2 newspapers, and maybe you took a weekly. Well, you only had those sources of information. That was curated for you, right? Because that's what the editorial process is about: is deciding these are the things that are news. We're going to
put these forward. Yeah.
Yes, right. And so now, though, you have so many more opportunities to select what you want curated for you.
And you have a vast spectrum also of information sources that are true and real and vetted, and then you have other stuff too, like patriot.baldeagle.org.
Conservative Report.
Yeah, you have a vast spectrum of these things of journalism, and then completely
they're
unjournalistic.
But they're made. Half of these websites are made to mimic sites like CNN. They look just like them.
Yeah,
they have the same color scheme. Or
I'm sure it's not hard to sort of get in that ballpark.
Yeah. So it would be easy to be frustrated by that and just disengage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just say screw all media, screw all journalism.
You can't believe anything,
Yeah.
And you know that's not the case. That is not the case. But you can't just accept everything. Look, if you go to the New York Times, that's probably true. What they're reporting, not. I mean, when you report things, when I say something is true, somebody said something. They said it. That's what you're reporting.
The
not
quote
whether
is real.
Yes, exactly. We checked into these things. We found this documentation. Those things are real. Now, what the opinion on them is, that's not truth. That's something else. But it's the reporting process is the most
Actually, New York Times. I actually read a tweet from a junior editor at New York Times who was an Asian guy who said that all white males should be castrated. He still has his job. Like that's another problem of the news media is.
Yeah, but was that the exact quote? What was the context?
Yeah, that was his tweet. No, it was like it was in a line of like 5 tweets about how evil white men are.
Yeah, I think it was a woman. It was their new tech.
Was it a woman? You might be right.
They hired her as a tech.
I just saw the
technology, and she
was very androgynous, so I thought it was a guy.
And I could be wrong too. I'm not 100% sure, but apparently the context of that, she had been attacked repeatedly, and these were retaliating against people who were attacking her. I mean, I don't think you should ever say that.
Yeah, I don't know. But it went towards the credit of whatever nameless, faceless person that we're talking about who kind of gets disillusioned by media in general. I read that, I'm like, oh, cool, New York Times. You do really care about journalism. You hire people like this, so it's very easy to get disillusioned. Even when big cornerstones of journalism like New York Times says stuff like that, and everyone gets stuff wrong at the end of the day. But this is kind of a little different than that too.
Right. So you can't judge reporting. I mean, there will be things on a daily basis that will be wrong, but you have to look at things over time.
Right.
And reporting is a process. Yeah. You look back over a story, and now you can piece it together into a coherent story, but it happens now on a daily basis. It comes in trickles, I guess would be the way to say it a lot of times. And so the great thing about the internet is you go find those trickles.
And that's why, say in the newspaper, I mean, you can go back and read the corrections. They have the corrections in the newspaper. Oh, this is what we got wrong last Sunday. Here you go. We got this wrong. And that's integrity in journalism. And I don't know. It seems like a lot of that kind of is going away. I don't know. I'm probably a lot more pessimistic than I should be, though.
Well, I mean, you see a lot of these with the smaller news stations and smaller newspapers that are being bought by larger corporations, and I know it does have some effect. But the people that are still working there, the people that are still being the journalists and writers, reporters, I mean, they still have that common goal of trying to get to the truth.
I think that's why people do it. You asked me why I did it, and I didn't know at first, but I figured it out pretty quick.
You wanted to be an enemy of the American people.
Exactly. That sounded like a good gig to me. So. I mean, you know what? If I tell people, if everybody hates you, you're probably doing your job.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a journalist, for real. Yeah, I could see that.
Have you ever gotten hate mail for a piece that you've done?
I've had people hate on me.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't write letters anymore, so we don't get much of that. They can just post it on social media.
Yeah, they just write in the comment section.
But I don't do a lot of daily reporting. It's not something I do. What I do is foster, I guess, our young cubby reporters. I mean, we're a place where people start in their first job out of school.
Yeah.
And it's not a job you hit the ground doing very well. It takes time. It takes time to learn about the world, how government works, where, geographical boundaries, titles of people, agendas. I mean, all those things come into the understanding how to report a story. And you know, I didn't know that coming out of college. Some people do. I mean, it's all a matter of what you've been exposed to.
Yeah.
You know, if back when I used to go talk to, you know, school kids, and they were like, you get one or two kids that are really interested in doing it, like, what should I do? You know, I'm like, read books. They're really important. You know? I mean, it's learning about the world. History, I find, is incredibly important because you know what? Everything that's happened, I mean, everything we're doing, it's happened before.
Yeah.
You can find all kinds of parallels in history.
Yeah.
It's cyclical.
Yeah.
It really is, yeah. Yeah.
So that's encouraging because that's, again, back to my pendulum theory, because you look at that through history and you see these, you know, things happen in the country and there's a reaction, and it may take decades sometimes. I mean, look at the Supreme Court right now. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen or who's going to be nominated. You know, we have nominees, and Trump may be able to appoint so many justices, and it may take 30, 40, 50 years to change if you don't like their opinions. I mean, that's a long game.
It is a long game.
You know, sometimes it plays out longer than our lifetimes, which is, you know, so then you think, well, what good is it? What can I as an individual do? What's the point? But some people don't give that up. I mean, they fight the fight for whatever their viewpoints are. And that's the beauty of a democracy, right, is you have that opportunity.
Yeah.
And you don't get that everywhere. Someplace they just shoot.
Well, freedom of the press is pretty rare.
Well, that's why it's the First Amendment in the Constitution. It's hugely important because without that, all you have is government speak.
Yeah.
And rumor.
Is it the kind of scary thing that's happening where it seems like we're getting toward that, with people being disillusioned, not really fake news, all this stuff, the ignoring of facts? I mean, do you think that we were reaching some kind of point of maybe not that free speech is cracked down on, but that it's, you know, people just don't do it anymore because it doesn't do anything?
There's a lot of historical precedent for what's going to come whenever the government or parts of the government tries to undermine the press. That usually sets up some really, really bad times to come. Usually.
Yeah, but there are models for that, and I will take. You know, I've really tried to understand what happened in Nazi Germany, or in Germany before it became Nazi, in the 30s. Why could somebody rise to the power and then do the things that this government did? And, you know, part of the strategy was to shut down the information. I mean, they were closing down and going and messing up newspapers.
That was a huge part of it.
Yeah.
But you see it's almost across the board everywhere. Like in Pol Pot did it. You know, he took control. I mean, you see like
it's the model.
It's the model. Yeah. Every time there's a regime change in an African country, it happens where they just say, let's round up these journalists, let's silence them, or let's make them work for us, and they just put out pieces on them, you know. So
the really cool thing to me about social media and the internet that I've seen happen in my lifetime, which has been a huge shift, is that, you know, aside from just being snowflakes sometimes out there that I don't know what to focus on, and there's always, you know, shiny ball over here, is that now everybody is a publisher. I mean, it used to be that you literally had to own a printing press, right, to print out the pamphlets and go hand them out.
We talked to a self-published author the other day, actually,
I mean, it's huge. It's a huge thing because you can get it out there. Yeah. And now when they start blocking access in that way, that's a very scary thing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they just did that with Alex Jones, you know, in a way. In a way, they did.
Yeah,
you know, I'm not supportive of his.
The big way methods, they did.
But all the corporate structures said, "Nah, we can get rid of you if we want."
They deplatformed him.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, and I took a deep breath on that because it's. I agree.
It's a complicated. It's a complicated thing. You know? Yeah,
it is. But here's how I look at it. Where he was publishing was not, he didn't own that. Those were, you know,
private
business. And they have the right to decide what can be in their part of their business model.
I think it was how they did it as a group is what was. That was a scary thing.
See, I don't understand that either, because if he had got to this point where he was, how do I say it? If he was abusing their terms of service, he should have already been deplatformed a long time ago. He's been doing this for a long time, and it seems like it just seems all very inconsistent. And if he is like inciting violence or doing something that's a crime, then he should. There's all kinds of other heinous people that are doing all this stuff. So they're like setting themselves to be the moral authority on their platform, which I think is a huge pitfall for them. Just let it stand. And if something happens that's illegal, then obviously take that down. But I wouldn't stand as like the judge and jury on what is and what isn't on a giant platform like that. Like that's because they're not. Yeah, they're private corporations, but I mean Google that owns YouTube. YouTube, more people watch YouTube than watch all of the media networks combined in our country, guaranteed. So that's just
there's cat videos with 1 billion views.
Yeah, literally, like yeah. There's people that made their whole they work on YouTube now, not work for YouTube, but work for themselves. Like Rubens, what's his name? Rubens. He does
Dave Rubens.
Dave Rubens. He does the Rubens Report in a home studio that looks like anything you'd see on Fox News or CNN.
Yeah.
It's wholly professional.
Yeah,
and it just seems like a really weird thing for them to do.
Anybody can be a publisher. Anybody can be. I mean, we could broadcast out of here if we wanted to with some webcams and stuff. You know, it's not going to be on the airwaves, but it'll be on the internet.
It seemed very weird to me that they would all deplatform him now at the same time.
Well, I don't know if they got on a conference call and said, "You ready to do it?"
I'm sure they did.
I don't know, but you know, if
it's just a domino effect.
If Zach is the cool kid wearing his hat on backwards and goes out, and next thing you know, everybody's wearing the hat on backwards. I mean, there's. I think somebody was waiting for the domino to fall.
I think so too.
And once they did it, well, okay, we're going to do it.
Right.
Now,
they just followed suit. They didn't get together. He might say they are because he's conspiratorially minded.
Do you think there is at a point where what someone's saying is so atrocious that you have to shut it off, that you have to act as an editor and go, we just can't tolerate this? Is there a point?
Maybe individually, but not as a society. I don't think as a government should say anything. But if you want to punch somebody in the mouth for saying something atrocious,
we'll see. The government didn't do it, so I agree with the government part.
Yeah,
but this wasn't the government.
But this was to my point, though, is that they have their rules plainly stated. So if he violates them, then they can take that content off. I don't know if I would have just completely deplatformed him because it sets a bad precedent. But so if he's doing one episode or a cast or whatever that's 4 hours long, it's going to be hard to sift through. But where he's like saying that Sandy Hook's a facade, like just remove that, give him a strike. If he has 3 strikes, he's out. Just don't do it all at once. You know what I mean? It looks very
reactionary.
It's very reactionary. It's very unprofessional. It's not becoming of someone. It's not becoming of an organization that's bigger than all the media combined. You know, it's I don't know. I just think it's a bad step.
Yeah, I have a hard time believing that information is so harmful that we have to keep it from people.
Absolutely, I don't think so either.
Harmful.
I mean,
you know what they tried to do to get the Bible not printed? You know. Like I don't remember specific stories, but like there's a lot of stories that whenever what was it? Martin Luther, he was the guy. He was like, we need to teach these people how to read this shit.
Oh yeah,
and they like printed it in something other than Latin.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was Martin Luther. He wanted to print it in something that the people could read, so that they didn't have this treasure of the word, you know. And it's information is ridiculously powerful. It's why I think it's being so controlled like it is today.
I mean, it is powerful, but that doesn't. But we can't. I think it has to be let people judge its power.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's the idea of publish and be damned. And Alex Jones, that really raises. I mean, I'm struggling with that because I agree with your point.
It is a pitfall, though. You see, it's.
I also think he was a crazy fuck. Like that's
he's absolutely
for sure. You know, it's just it's.
You don't believe in interdimensional beings or
interdimensional
all right, so what we have here is we have some interdimensional beings, and what they're doing is they're coming down and they're infesting these pizza joints and they're raping toddlers, and that's what we're doing. They're demons and they're vampires and they suck out your blood from your essence, and we're gonna go to a crystal dimension.
Yeah, maybe they should have kicked him off of YouTube.
Yeah, no, I just my thing is I'm not a fan of censorship really of any kind, and I feel like
not even of Nazis.
No, I
think it's good to know
do not
stay away from and
do not censor Nazis, man. Like I don't think you should. I think if you censor Nazis, then you relegate them to the shadows, and what happens in the shadows? Like light dies out. You know what I mean? Like
I'll give you an example. In the 90s here. We had we had some issues, and a Klan group decided to come here and make its presence known.
Like do a walk down the streets?
Yes, yeah, different. They did a couple of different things, but yeah, that type of thing. So the first time they come, you go and you're like, you talk to them, you want to, show what idiots they are.
You working at the newspaper?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
So you had to kind of hold back in that regard. Or
So the question is, you go cover them, right? Because that's happening, and the people need to know, and that's exactly what they want.
But you're also thinking, oh man, maybe someone will watch this and
like.
Well, that's the best recruiting tool they could get. Was to be on the news.
Well,
because
being presented as serious, being taken seriously.
Well,
and then they're just being salacious, for the
sake of attention. So now you're providing the megaphone for them. Granted, that's all changed because you have a lot more megaphones out there.
Yeah.
But you're giving almost legitimacy to it just by covering it.
See, I think I know where you're going with that, but I also feel like it's a little bit of a false equivalence, because I understand your reluctance to go and do that, because what you're doing is, as a journalist, you're going out of your way to go and cover this, right?
Because it's news. And
but
by
you literally
assigning it the title of news.
But you're taking action, and you're doing that. But in the case of like YouTube, say for Alex Jones, no one's going out of their way to give him a platform. He's just using the same exact thing that everyone else is. It's not news, it's just self-publication. So everyone has their own option to either, just like a self-publicized book, like you go to the library, you pick which book you want to read, but the library is not going to like throw away a book that's about like a spell book about kids.
It'd probably be about the same idea, though, is what he said.
So YouTube acts as a publisher, not an editor.
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
It would be the thing. I guess the point I was trying to make is that, and I see where you're going, and I'm not trying to equate the two, but the first time they come, it's news. But what about the 15th and the 20th time?
Yeah.
I mean, do you keep going and doing it? At some point, do you go, we're just helping them?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you get it. That's part of the editorial process. You go, well, the first time, people need to know they exist and that this is what they represent. And there was a guy out of Mississippi who came here, and he was going to march and bite her. And I think it was called the Nationalist Movement.
How many people did they actually get?
Well, about 5. So
I would show just a wide shot of everybody that's there.
Yeah, we did.
That's your coverage.
We did, but
hey guys, look at.
But it was a long drawn out deal because the city of Vider wanted to try and stop them.
Yeah,
and again, that right to assembly is in that First Amendment. Well, they did. So they go to federal court. The city of Vider, and we're in a federal judge's chambers. And the city of Vider has, ponied up to hire an attorney to try and stop it. Well, they lost, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they spent like $50,000 trying to stop something that was going to happen no matter what. Yeah, the guy gets, the guy who, his name is Richard Barrett, I believe. He traveled around the country doing this. That's how he made his living.
That's how he made money, yeah.
He made money just going in.
Yeah, because he sued for court costs. His court cost. He was an attorney.
Because he was an attorney.
Yeah, he could he was an attorney, so he could
he's
go.
Just making false allegations and acting like.
Well, he knew he had the right to go march. He knew it was inflammatory.
So he finds somebody dumb enough to try to stop him.
And so
basically.
and but it gets to be. I mean, where do you draw the lines?
God,
and there were like
the snakiest
it was terrible
thing I've ever heard. That was a hell of a scheme.
At one point.
That's an elaborate scheme, too.
They send some guy to go talk to the city council. It wasn't this head guy. It was somebody else. And he was in the full costume. He had the braces on. And he was And so we get him after the city council meeting, and I'm asking him a question, and he recites this, like 5 sentences. And I asked him another question. He recites these 5 sentences. I'm like, is that all you're going to say? And he says it again, right? So I'm like, so control the message by not saying anything other than the only thing you could put on.
Right.
The only way I could think to combat that was to run that entire interview, showing that when I asked him a question, exactly,
it makes him look crazy.
Yeah.
And is that what you did?
Yeah. He looked like a robot.
That's great.
And obviously he had clear instructions not to answer any questions.
Sure.
Yeah, he was sitting there.
That was the right call.
He was sitting there where it was going to be like, no, just say one thing, and they can only take one clip. They were going to use 5 seconds or whatever.
He was trying to game the system,
right?
Wow.
Basically. But these days that's kind of, that happens a lot.
Yeah.
I mean
Those talking head segments.
Yeah, people are going to say what they're going to say, and then they're not going to say anything else. I mean, control the message. That's the name of the game. I mean, that's how you get. That's how you control the marketplace of ideas.
Have you become jaded at all?
I like to think I was born that way.
What do you mean become?
I think that the more I studied the world, the more cynical I became.
Yeah.
And so that process has been ongoing. And it's not that I don't believe in ideas.
Well, you can be cynical, but some people are cynical and don't believe there's anything good. And then there's some people who are cynical, and then it makes you learn to appreciate the good things more.
I think there's way more good people than bad people. And I think when you look at something like crime, it's 5% of the people committing all the crimes.
Yeah.
That means 95% of the people are not.
Even in Beaumont?
And so, crime coverage gets inflated on the news, and you would think that it's just, everywhere, that we're about to be,
if it bleeds, it leads.
It is. Yeah. And people like to see crime stories. But the reality is crime has gone down since the early 90s.
It's been steadily going down, yeah. I actually had an interesting conversation with somebody on one of the most toxic places you can on the comments section of Channel 12 or something on Facebook, and it was about kidnapping. And I was like, and I just put on there, I was like, why are people worried about kidnapping? Do you know what the odds are of your child being kidnapped? I looked it up, it's like 1 in 300,000. And I was like, what's your odds of falling down the stairs and dying? And it was like 1 in 6,400. I was like, okay, why don't you put and people just put me on blast. I was like, it's not, because the world isn't as dangerous as it seems.
It's almost like they want it to be dangerous.
You're consuming all this, but it's not. No one's going to kidnap your child.
Well,
they're just not.
You see those people that always say that kids don't go outside because they have video games. Do they not go outside because their parents are so neurotic and only watch the news now?
I guess. I don't know.
Well, you look at sexual assault against children, and the percentage that are actual strangers grabbing children.
Very, very, very low.
No, it's
very,
the grandpa. It's the
right.
The neighbor or something.
Yeah, it's somebody they know, and oftentimes it's people in positions that position themselves to be around children at maybe a school or scouting or all these kind of institutions. Because that if you think about it, if that's what you want to do, that's where you go to get access to children and their trust, and oftentimes a relative.
Wouldn't that say that's what the CIA is doing with the news stations? Tom,
I can only.
Tom, are you really? We have you wired. Are you really a CIA operative?
I am an enemy of the American people.
Yeah,
according to our president.
That's funny though. That's kind of one of the biggest differences between mine and Zach's generation and your generation, and even the middle ground too is how different the
generation now.
How different the media was, right? So the media was just all encompassing. Whenever we were growing up, there was 24-hour news cycles.
We caught the tail end of the traditional media.
Well,
I guess.
But where I'm going is so when we were kids, the 24-hour news cycle was a thing. It was invented. I don't. When you were a little kid, I don't think that was a thing at all. No, it wasn't.
No.
So whenever this was the case, they had to just look for they would run out of stories. So it would often be little crimes or abductions here. The things that are 1 out of 300,000. They would post that a lot. So. In your generation, you get to go outside and play. You're not. No one's bombarded with the information of all this stuff like when we were kids and we would go out and play. But your generation was a lot more likely to probably be diddled than ours. Exactly. Just because of the news. So it's this weird sort of paradox where as the media has portrayed all the injustices going on, they've start going down. But you're so hyper aware of them happening that you don't put yourself in this. It's a wild thing. So
you don't get molested because you hear about all these people getting molested that aren't really getting molested.
I think you're right. I think that's the reality.
It's so strange, but I mean,
I was going to make a really terrible joke, but the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
That'd been terrible.
I'm just saying.
But I think back to the pendulum thing. I'm ready for the pendulum to swing back, though. I feel like there's I've heard the term infobesity. We live in infobesity. There's just too much information surrounding us, and even in the past 10 years, it's gotten so much worse because there's 10 times the amount of air quotes like journalistic sources. There's like the Daily Wire, there's Daily Mail, there's Wright. You know, there's all these things. There's not just like
Bright.
you know,
Bart.
Bart. I don't know. You know, there's all of these, and it's just too much, man. I want to swing back. I need simplification.
With the way that the president's talking about the news media, I don't know what will happen to journalists or to people. Like, I don't know, with the direction that we have. Like, do you think there's ever going to be like a recertification of journalistic, like, yes, you know? Like,
So right. So here's the deal.
Like I know AP is like the standard, right?
No, that's more a style.
Okay.
It's AP style. It's just how you write things and how you.
That's what all the conspiracy theorists harp on, is the AP is conspiracy theory.
No. Okay, so what you're talking about is licensing. Like, if you're a doctor, you get licensed.
Yeah.
If you're an attorney, you get
some
licensed.
Kind of certification,
right?
or some kind of like integrity behind it, you know?
Well, I think that's
Not
supposed
saying that y'all don't
the
have
problem
integrity,
with
but
licensing comes regulation.
is who's
And now we're
going to
decide that you're not adhering to our journalistic principles, and we're going to revoke your license.
That's supposed
government media.
That's
right
supposed to happen in the universities. When you're going for journalism, you're supposed to take classes on ethics. That's when that's supposed to step in.
History and principles. That was the big class, and I sat in that in a big auditorium with 300 people, and it was enthralled, man. This stuff I hadn't really thought about, and I kind of did.
There's been some shady shit that's been going on that they don't teach you about in high school. A lot of shady shit that goes on that they don't teach you
in
about
high school. Would you ever?
That's truth.
Would you ever thought you would be the enemy of the people?
No. Well, actually, yes.
He's a punk rock kid, man. Come on.
He's like, hell yeah, I did.
Yeah, I was pretty much banking on that, I think. That's where all the fun is, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, it's storming. It's coming down pretty hard. You want to take a break?
Yeah, we'll take a break.
Yeah.
Hey guys, this is Chris with A to Z Movie Night, letting you know that A to Z Podcast Studio is funded in part by our patrons over at Patreon. If you'd like to support us, head over to patreon.com/A to Z BMT. That is patreon.com/A to Z BMT.
Well, hey, you guys, welcome to our mid-episode break.
Yes, this is the part where we tell you about things going on in your community.
Yeah, so on Thursday, November 15th at 9, there's Days and Days, the Disgustoids and Maxi Fads at Texas Rose Saloon. All ages $6 cover and 21 plus.
And then on Friday, November 16th at 8:30 p.m., you're going to have Orbiter with our boys, the Doties, at Log On Cafe. It's a $5 cover. Go check those guys out. They're going to be in town. The Doties will be in town for another month or so.
For another month, and then they're going back to Israel, so see them while you can.
And then a personal shout-out for my own shit was Saturday,
November 17th at 9 p.m. Son of Hot Damn, the Resurrection.
Hot Damn, and that's going to be a free thing, and we're going to get up there and spin some records for you guys.
That's right, it's
all
going to be
the
at
boys.
Thirsties, and as always, shows are free at Thirsties.
Yeah, and that's going to be a good time. It's coming up on the 5th anniversary of Son of Hot Damn. We decided to come out and do a little show for y'all, so we're going to have a good time. You get to watch me get goofy and spin some records. So
take your opportunity, because they'll probably be gone for a couple more years.
Sitting down and posting pictures or whatever, or something.
I don't know. His thing is more than being a historian. He's like a storyteller.
Right.
So I really think he just.
Yeah.
I think all that's from his head. I really do.
It might be.
I don't even think he has post-it notes. I think he just. Whoa. You want to come back on that one?
Woohoo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's come
welcome back, guys.
We're back. As you can tell, it is voraciously thundering.
Everything's grounded in here.
Yeah, it's great.
Are you sure? We'll find out. Here, let me grab this wet cup here and see what happens.
Yeah.
We'll check out your engineering skills. So
I can do a lot.
I love the rain. I mean, I really do. I loved it up until Harvey, I would say, but no, it's always been like I don't know. I just dig it.
Love thunderstorms. Yeah. We live in a very thunderstorm-stricken area, so
right. We were on the break, and you mentioned that you had some stuff that you written down, some things that came to mind to talk about.
I did. I thought about stories that I might share that are we've talked so much about news and information.
Well, the big thing is that you've been at KFDM for 33
something odd years.
Ridiculous amount. That's a ridiculous amount of time to be in this area for a news station in that field, and in our area, you've probably seen some shit.
Yeah, but I'm going to talk about some other stuff.
That's fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
That's fine. But I have. I mean, we
already
can talk about.
we already
some of
got
that,
like
so.
Klansman stuff. We got some good stories
Yeah,
from
we
that
can get some
stuff.
stories. No, whatever you want.
How about no crying and backpacking?
Yeah, I don't know, what
the
is
day
that?
I learned that. Have you ever done any backpacking?
I've always wanted to.
Okay, yeah, that's what you think. So let me tell you what backpacking is. Backpacking is suffering. So you might see some beautiful places, but you've suffered all day to see it.
Yeah.
So what you do is obviously you take everything you're going to need to survive for a day, 2, 3. I've done 3 nights out. It's my longest trip.
Yeah.
And you have to carry it all with you. And you're going to walk 6, 8, maybe 10 miles, which, you can do. You could walk 20 miles if you had to. But you're also carrying a pack, 30 pounds, 25 pounds. So the whole time you're pretty much going, this sucks.
Yeah.
Right? So I decided I wanted to backpack. So I started, I bought a book, started gathering up the gear, went on a couple of trips, and I decided I wanted to go out to Mount Wheeler in New Mexico, and that's almost a 14-foot peak. I was going to go summit Wheeler.
14,000.
Yeah, 14,000 feet, yeah.
That's really high. Jeez.
It's pretty high. I mean,
That's like Pikes Peak.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Pikes Peak's like 14.
Yeah.
8.
So Colorado, you have 14,000. You have, I
Yeah.
don't know, there's 10 of them or something like that. So there's, yeah. So this is my own naivete here. I decided I'm going to go at the end of May, thinking I want to get there before it gets hot.
Did you do that by yourself?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I've done
So you,
most
so
of
you
my
went there when it
backpacking.
was blizzardy?
Well, it wasn't blizzardy, but when I'm going up, you climb all day, right? You've been walking hours, and I ran across a couple of people, and you, of course, you always want to know what's up ahead on the trail or anything. They're like, well, we just went up a little ways and came back. And I finally came across some guys that were turning back, and they said, it's all snow, man. You can't find the trail. I couldn't mind you. I've driven 1,200 miles, right, to go to New Mexico to climb this mountain. So I get up to this point where literally you can't see the trail. It's all snow, and not only is there snow, but there's all these trees that have fallen over. So you have 3 feet of snow, 4 feet of snow, and then you have trees that are you would have to just climb over the trees and into the snow and over the tree. And I'm like, oh man, I don't want to go back, but I'm not really sure what to do. So I decide to bushwhack. That means
With the snow?
Just go cross country. Well, I'm looking up and I'm like, I'm seeing the trail and I'm
That's where
seeing
you
the
need to
trees.
go.
Yeah, I'm like, I got to go uphill. That's right. I mean, I'm going to the top, right? It all goes to the same place. And there was a scree field. That's where rock has fallen down off the side of the mountain, and it can be pebbles or it can be boulders.
It's like a gravel pit, basically.
Yeah, but it's on a slope, and you see them all over mountains. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
scree
I know
fields
what
are
you're
just real common. I had to learn all these mountaineering, these alpine terms, right? So I'm like, I'll just go up this scree here, and it wasn't bad. And I start climbing up that, and mind you, at some point I have to pitch a tent and sleep, So remember I said backpacking is suffering, so keep this in mind. So I make it up the scree field, and of course now I have no idea where I am. But I find the trail.
Did you have snow-rated equipment?
No.
Snow-rated tent?
Oh, no, not this time.
No?
Well,
Oh.
I had, I think my bag was probably good for about 20 degrees or something. I had a pretty good bag. I bought good equipment. And it only weighed, a couple of pounds. That's the thing. You've got ultralight equipment that's really, you spend enough money, and it keeps getting better and better. So I go up I find the trail. I'm like, okay, that's great. I just got through that snow under those trees and follow the trail, get to this lake. Now this is not the summit, but you often find these lakes are just below the peaks.
Like little
Very
glacier
common.
lakes or
Yeah.
something.
So set up my tent. A storm starts blowing in. I'm like, hurry up and set up my tent up. Well, it's in the mountains. It didn't hit. It just, you'd think it's going to. So that night I settle in to sleep, and you sleep on a pad. It's not like an air mattress because that's way too heavy. So it's a very thin pad that you roll up, and it's to insulate you basically from the ground. And so 3 o'clock in the morning, I wake up and I am shivering. I mean, I am so cold. I'm like, this is not good.
Yeah.
I'm definitely suffering now. So I'm like, I have to do something because I'm not going to be okay. I mean, I know I wouldn't die right away, but I'm just thinking.
You can't take it.
Yeah, and I'm already having the effects of altitude too. So
Right,
that's
right.
starting to happen, and I'm fatigued from walking all day. So I get up, I build a fire, which I find a little bit of wood. That lasted about 5 minutes because this stuff's all real dry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's not much wood up there anyway. That burns up. I get every piece of clothing I can find. I put it on. I finally settle in. I got a little bit of sleep before the sun comes up and you're awake again. Now I have to summit. So I'm not feeling real good. I'm not, really not feeling good.
Didn't you bring a Cliff Bar with you?
So I pack everything up, and when you're in those mountains, you think something's right over there. I mean, it's just like it's going to take
Right.
Yeah, I've learned that's really an hour away or two. So I start walking, and you can see the trail, and it takes forever. And I finally get to the summit of Mount Wheeler, and I'm like, great, it's all downhill from here, right? So I go, and I'm ready to take off, and I'm really feeling. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. The altitude. I got a headache. Nothing's functioning right at this point in your body, right? You're not good. So I climb down off of the top of the mountain and back down into the snow, and I realize I have no idea where the trail is. And I'm a long way. I'm 6-7 miles away from the trailhead. I mean, I can't bushwhack.
You're in there.
I'm going to be completely lost. And so I had read a trip report before I went out there, and this guy had said, I got up there, there's a lot of snow, and I had to post hole across the mountain. I'm like, post hole? So that means you're climbing over those fallen trees into the snow, climbing out of that over the tree, and post holing in the snow. Right. So I'd start doing that along the side of the mountain, and it's getting steeper, to where I'm just, it's starting to get kind of vertical. And I walk out, and then suddenly there's this huge scree field that's, I don't know, it's maybe 50 yards across, but it's a couple hundred miles, a couple hundred yards down.
Yeah.
And you can't cross that.
And it was full of snow.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, well, I remember the trip report. The guy told me, the guy wrote in this trip report that he had done something called a glissade or a glissade. I don't know my French, but that means basically to slide on your ass.
Yeah.
All right? I'm like, that's a really cool mountaineering move. So I'm like, okay, I don't know, this is the only thing. It's got to be. I think I had followed this guy's footprints because there was kind of a, post holes. There was post holes. And so, well, that's what you got to do. And I don't know what's going to happen. Am I going to drop off into this and go into 10 feet of snow and never be seen again? I have no idea. I don't know.
It might cause an avalanche.
But I can't stay where I am because if I go back, I don't know. I mean, what do you do?
Yeah.
So, take my pack off, take the leap. And I thought I was going to just go down this thing. Well, I got about halfway across, lost my momentum. I'm just sitting there laughing at that point. And then I'm like, so I kind of paddle my way across it. And I get to the other side, and now the scree is the size of, an office desk or bigger. I mean, they were really big, pretty big rocks. And then it kind of dawns on me, I'm utterly lost.
Yeah.
I do not know where I am.
And you're further from the top now than you were.
And I feel terrible.
Yeah.
And I just started crying. That's it. I just had an emotional breakdown. I'm just broke down. I'm just like, I just don't want to be here. I don't want to be doing this. Yeah. What am I doing? I don't know what's going on. I'm like, okay, dude, get it together. There's the sun. That's that direction. I had a map. I had a compass. I had water. I had food. I even had shelter. If I had to stay out another night, I wasn't going to die.
Yeah.
I just really kind of had to get it together. And then I turned my phone on, which I usually keep it off just because of battery. And I'm like, I had a GPS signal. So I'm looking at the map going, all I have to do is I'm going to a lake, right? Mm-hmm. So all the water's got to go downhill.
Yeah.
So if I just follow the drainage, it'll take me to the lake. Yeah, I know. It sounds simple till you're out in the middle there crying, trying to figure out how to get home. So I did that, and I got out of there. I got to the lake, and I picked up the trail, and then it was just the most demoralizing part was that the last mile was down a dirt road, which is terrible hiking, right? Who wants to hike down a dirt road? And it starts raining, and I have to get out, put my rain gear on, trod my way through. Yeah. So I actually, the point is that like I said, backpacking is suffering, but you learn a lot in those moments of suffering.
Yeah.
You find out a little bit about yourself. And I tell you what, a bath and a pizza, never so good as when you're back from the back country.
Yeah. So you got lost and you broke down crying.
Yeah,
What
I did.
did you learn?
You think that's funny, don't you?
It is kind
Yeah.
of funny because you're okay. You're here. You're okay. I mean, it's I've had bad experiences where I look back and I'm like, God, I was such a baby. But
I have
in
a
those
lot of
moments,
those, yeah.
though, it's,
I think it was a release. I think
dude,
the
I would feel
adrenaline.
that, I would feel that scared too.
of
6 miles away from civilization.
and part of it was I just had to kind of get my bearings about me. And I was,
it's okay to freak out every now and then.
Yeah,
too,
it is.
right?
It's okay. It was kind of funny. I haven't cried since, so this is my last time I cried backpacking.
I've always wanted to do backpacking. Like
You don't want to
that.
do it. Don't
I
do
do.
it.
Well,
Don't do it.
Well, what made you want to do it?
I had very romantic notions about it myself.
Was it a challenge or?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it was a physical challenge, a mental challenge. Things could go terribly
You just
wrong.
kind of want to test yourself, flirt with danger.
I did, and it was.
Yeah.
I was older when I started. I mean, it was probably 10 years ago. So
Okay.
I'm 56 now, so I was in my mid-40s.
So midlife crisis kind of.
I never thought of it that way, but probably. And I had
Not bad though. You could have bought a Corvette.
Well,
or a motorcycle.
maybe I should have, but
I don't know. I don't think so.
yeah, I've had good experiences. And I haven't done it in a couple of years. I had a knee issue, so last one I did was a Grand Canyon. That
It's
was
hard to summit with a knee
tough,
issue.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a 14er in Colorado. A real 14, not just 13.8 or whatever. This was that was tough. I mean, the altitude's weird because we're at sea level,
Right.
Yeah.
and I can go visit my folks in Missouri. It's at 3,000 feet, and I can feel the effects.
Right.
So a day or two, 3 days into being at
You just get so winded so quick.
Yeah,
so quick.
I was trying
Have
to
weight on your chest.
I would walk. When I was in Colorado doing that 14, I would walk 10 yards and have to stop, take a breath, keep going. You just keep going. But and then there were people there that somebody passed me, summited, and came back while I was still just struggling to. I'm like, great. But that's all part of it.
You should have blood dope, man. Should have took out some blood and put it back in right before you left.
A little oxygen.
Yeah. Just extra pint.
A
Be
little
like,
oxygen tent. You
hey
said
doc,
that.
let me get that extra pint back in there. I'm about to go climb a mountain.
I mean, I think
need
part
my
of it's
red blood cells.
removing yourself from your world.
Yeah.
I mean, we are so connected and we're so fortunate, and there are so many things that we take for granted that I think being out exposed in the elements, and it also makes me think a lot about how people lived for 100,000 years and what that was like.
It is out there. How beautiful the night sky is.
Yeah, and how utterly alone it can be sometimes. And I mean, you go through. I find on trips, I go through a wide range of emotions. I find it an emotional experience on just in many different ways. Everything from really good emotions to really bad emotions, and it's self-exploration at the end of the day. So
that's kind of the only way to grow too. So
Having
really.
having a breakdown where you break down and cry is just as important as feeling elated. It's a fleeting emotion. It's going to be there. It's going to be gone. But it's kind of, there's a reason that you're feeling that certain way. You might as well let it out.
Yeah, and I spent a lot of time afterwards reflecting on that.
Yeah.
What I really wasn't in any danger. There was not anything.
No, you were just defeated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just scared, I think, at that point. Mostly, it was just kind of this irrational fear. Yeah, but.
Well, I don't know how irrational it was. It sounds like it was pretty
irrational.
well.
That's why the checklist of all the things that what's the worst? I'm a worst case scenario guy. I live my whole life going, okay, if that guy 5 cars up pulls over in my lane, I'm gonna have to. I mean, I'm always trying to look down the road at what's going to happen, and it's a blessing and a curse, but. I think that it's just taking stock on what's the worst case scenarios here. I mean,
I would have died because I would have been underprepared.
I tell you what, we were up in the Rocky Mountains, and I did this 3-night trip, and we spent a whole day up on the Divide, and it's a tundra. It is literally a tundra up there. So and you're hiking in this. It looks like a trench. I mean, it's a drainage, but you feel like you're walking in a ditch. It's maybe a couple of feet wide, and it's got all these rocks in it, like hand size or bigger rocks. And I'm thinking, how easy would it be to turn an ankle out here?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, very.
I mean, so now you're suddenly focused on every step you're taking, and you don't do that in life. But it was imperative to my well-being that I maintain this focus so I could get out of here, without any damage.
What do you think is important about that primal connection? That connection of how I guess we used to live as humans is so good for us. That makes us. I mean, it makes you obviously get something out of it. If you keep doing it, and it's not fun.
No, it's backpack is suffering. Yeah. I just don't. I think we just, we always operate from positions of we're always seeking security. Yeah. The human condition is that we want to be more secure than we are, and that leads us to a lot of irrational stuff, and it leads us to tribalism. It leads us to doing hurting other people before they hurt us. I mean, there's all kind of negative things, and there's also a lot of good things. We like to have a nice house so that we can get out of the thunderstorm, and we want to make sure that we have at least a day's worth of food and.
Retirement accounts.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so we're always seeking security, and I think that part of being out there is to remove that easy security.
All the safety nets.
Yeah,
basically.
But you carry. The funny thing is, you carry stuff with you. You got rope, and you got a whistle. You got extra food. You got.
Maybe a gun if you're in bear country or something like that.
I would never carry a gun. Actually, I'd carry a bear vault, which is the thing you put your food in. It's a big plastic container that the bear can't get its paws around and open, and then you place it away from your camp. They've gotten away from bear boxes, which is something to do. People used to hang their food, but now in Rocky Mountain National Park, for example, they require you
to have a vault.
The vault, they don't check, but. I mean, backpackers, I think, for the most part, are pretty ethical people. It's not something you go out and do when you're a criminal. There's no point.
Yeah.
There's no gain.
Well, you probably don't have the money to go do that if you're a criminal.
Yeah, well, and you're not going to haul your meth lab up to the top of the mountain.
I don't know. I might. That sounds like a great place to have it.
You might go out in the back 40 or something and do it, but out there, you're pretty safe. I know somebody that told me he carried a firearm when he was backpacking just for that. All those reasons, I'm like, that seems really extreme.
Well, that's the same as like.
Just seems like extra weight for you.
The odds are pretty slim too. Huh?
Yeah, I mean,
they're more so than.
There's way more things that are actually going to probably hurt you than.
I don't know. Bears I'm pretty scared of bears.
Acceptable risk, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we're always assessing. What's an It cracks me up because we have all these irrational things that we think are going to get us, and people get in their car and drive 70, 90 miles an hour on a highway, and don't bat an eye at it because they're so accustomed to it. And that scared
they're comfortable.
That really scares me. I mean,
driving.
Well, yeah, because I know that's the danger.
Yeah.
I mean,
how many fatalities do you think he's seen
how many car
in
wreck,
his line of work?
I mean, I remember one day in a driving rain, we're out on the highway because there's a fatality in the body of the person's on the highway, and we're like, how did that happen? And apparently the guy was wearing a seatbelt, but it didn't keep him from being ejected from the car, is what they thought. I'm like, boy, that's crazy.
That's really crazy.
Not even a seatbelt. You do see a lot of fatalities of people not wearing seatbelts. If you don't crash your car at 70 miles an hour not wearing a seatbelt, that's ridiculous thing to do. But yeah, I've seen a lot of it. I mean, I have. That is probably of things that I do on a regular basis that I and I'm not scared. I think that's probably the wrong. I'm vigilant. I try to be.
You're hyper aware
because you have to.
But it's really easy to get distracted in a car, right? Too. There's that insulation thing. Cars have gotten so quiet. You can just kind of cruise along. It's very smooth, and you're very protected in a bubble.
I literally just driven 5 hours before I got here. So, and I've been driving a lot more, and it makes me pay attention a lot more. I do try to stay vigilant and watch all the cars in front of me, and well, you never know.
I mean, and then every other person on the road in the lane opposite to you, they're on their phone. Mm-hmm. They're looking at baldeagle.fart for their news. They're on there.
Well, at least they're well informed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they're doing. Look at somebody next time you're driving. Just look for their eyes. They have their eyes down to their lap because they're looking at their phone. You know how many wrecks people have actually got footage of because they were doing Facebook Live while they were driving.
Yeah,
I've seen a supercut of it. It's ridiculous.
Doing the Kiki challenge, and then they get slammed.
No, I just mean they're like, hey, I'm here live in my car. I'm driving, and then all of a sudden it's just crash. Yeah, oh shit, and they or whenever Snapchat had that miles per hour feature on there.
Oh yeah.
So they were Snapchatting them speed. Yeah, it was a personal goal.
Uh-huh. What's the fastest you've ever gone in a car?
In a car or on a motorcycle?
Car.
About 125 or something like that.
Cars like 130, 140, something like that.
Motorcycle?
About 150.
What was that like?
It's really weird.
You start to float.
It's almost like your perception kind of like
tunnels.
It tunnels, yeah. So it kind of goes a little bit further while everything on the side starts like kind of creeping in, and it just there was this really long stretch of road in Dallas where I lived, and it was off of like the Harry Hines district, like the garment district, and it was about half a mile long and super straight and had no dips and no bumps or anything. So you would go out there to test your bike. Got about 150. And I slowed down because the front wheel started to vibrate, and it started to vibrate my hands, and then I like my heart jumped about like 5 feet out of my chest, so I just like undid the throttle and kind of came down, and I was like, I'll never do that ever again. I don't know why I did that. I just wanted to. I
mean, you were way past. I mean, probably 80 miles an hour is not survivable on a motorcycle.
Yeah, I mean, no, 80s. There's a weird sort of
you can slide.
There's a counterintuitiveness with motorcycle and a car crash. Like you can get in a 5 mile per hour car crash and have a fractured back, and you can get into like 100 mile per hour motorcycle wreck and be fine.
As long as you don't hit anything.
As long as you don't hit anything, because you'll just slide. Yeah. And if I would have something would happen on this long straight road, I probably would have just slid. But yeah, that was a weird experience, and it was really scary. I thought I was gonna die. Like when everything started vibrating all at once, and I was like, no, I'm good. This bike wasn't meant to. It wasn't a heavy bike. It was a light bike. So
okay, that's I would have cried, I think.
I don't think I did. I think I was too shocked. I was too shocked to cry.
Very emotional.
I am.
Yeah,
I am. You got to get it out.
If I would have been stuck out in the snow for 2 days like that, I think I would have cried about that.
Yeah,
that's a lot more scary to me.
We all have our points, right?
I'm telling you, I would have died. I would have packed like a couple of granola bars, like a sleeping bag. I'd be like, no, it's
fine. I driving to work
fine.
the other day just because I was tired of driving.
There you go. Zach's a lot more in touch with his emotionality than I am.
He seems like an emotional guy.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. He's not a liar to himself.
I tear up
like I am.
Commercials.
You know what? The last time I actually did cry.
They're getting good at it, Tom. Okay.
The last time I did cry was a Toyota commercial.
Are you serious?
It was a
like
Toyota
the Christmas time commercial.
It was
troop commercial.
It was a Toyota commercial, a very high production one that was on before the movie, and it was like it started off in a country field with this really old like a 800-year-old looking oak.
Take me home.
And then
when you want a truck that was built,
and it was like this generational thing.
Japanese person.
It had the oak, and it had the sort of the very the thing you see all the time. It had like the heart, and everything was carved in there.
Somebody
and
loved somebody.
Somebody loved somebody, and then all of a sudden you see it like being chainsawed apart by like a big group of people who are working, and then a guy takes it, and then a guy takes it to the barn, and he's working on it, and then he makes a table out of it and gives it for the grandma and grandpa. It was there.
Oh,
it was
and
their
it was their
tree,
name.
and it was there, and like it's polished.
At the commercials of Infinity
it's
Wars,
like
didn't you?
yeah, the autograph, or the little moniker was like polished. I was like, oh my god, I need to call my grandma right now.
Just thinking, 30 seconds.
I don't remember.
They drove you to this emotion.
Yeah, no, it was very short. I was really impressed when I stopped. I was like, man, this is an emotional response. I was like, I am impressed, Toyota. That got me more than the Folgers commercial.
Which one?
He's home.
Yeah,
Folgers.
I don't think I can suspend disbelief long enough to have that to have an emotion. I'm just like, they're trying to sell me a car.
Yeah.
Or they're trying to sell me something.
It wasn't
maybe it's
until
being cynical because I know it's a commercial and therefore there's a product behind it.
You made commercials, Tom.
Well, this was a very cinematic commercial. It didn't have a logo.
I get it.
It only had like a couple of trucks in it, like when they were hauling.
Whenever you think about sentimental moments with your grandparents, think about your Toyota.
Think about Toyota. I'm by American.
Toyota truck. Toyota makes more American trucks than
I'm by
Ford
American
and Dodge combined.
Man, get out of here, brother. I drive American.
I had to replace my car after the storm, and they have like this new technology in these cars now.
Yeah.
So it's got this thing where
it's so you can't repair it yourself. That's why it's there.
No, So it'll you can set it up to where it will follow behind a vehicle so many links. You set the cruise control, and then you can decide how many links you want. Yeah, it slows down. I mean, I was sleeping
Even
the
in
other
traffic?
day, just letting it go,
That's
because
crazy.
it's going to stop. I mean,
Yeah.
I tested. I go about 90
Does it-
miles an
does it-
hour,
does it
go
work
to
in-
a wall, make sure it's going to stop.
Does it work in traffic as well? or-
Right. It does, yeah. Actually, it does. It works.
Do you have like a self-steering? Will it correct?
Oh, you don't need steering. You don't need that.
okay.
No, it doesn't do that. But I'm like, to me, I'm
These
like,
roads?
this.
These roads?
This is a move towards self-driving car. This is how they get you.
absolutely.
They
Yeah.
start.
Yeah.
They start in little increments.
It's
you know.
gonna be-
I'm all
it's-
for it, man. I'm ready. I don't
Does
want to
it,
drive.
it doesn't
anymore.
scare you at all?
No, because I think it's going to be safer than people.
Oh, it will
driving cars.
absolutely
Think
be
about all the
safer.
helicopter pilots that are pissed off about these drone operators. Okay,
Well, that's my worst fear
Yeah.
of flying a drone
It's
is
a
helicopters.
pilot coming after you.
Well, just being
'Cause they
around
fly in
them.
the
Well,
same space, right?
Yeah.
The
Well, you put it down. You don't fly near a helicopter just because the helicopter will suck that thing in,
Oh, yeah,
and it will
for
take
sure.
the helicopter down.
Yeah, it
Everything
will.
crashes, and that way again they drum that safety into our heads about, and that you put it down. You don't want to be anywhere near a helicopter. I mean, I would hate to be responsible for that.
For taking down a helicopter.
Yeah,
that'd
that
probably,
would not be on my list of things that I want to do.
Well, here's
in
your
life.
bill. It's $850,000.
Not to mention you might take someone's life.
Yeah.
I mean, I just no. So no. But self-driving cars, I'm for. Self-driving helicopters, I
So
don't know about.
I'm really excited about self-driving cars because it will make driving a lot safer. But also at the same time, I am afraid of self-driving semi-trucks. I am really afraid about it.
Are they going to be different?
that'll be
No,
something.
it's the job marketplace. I'm afraid of it.
No.
Oh yeah, it's going to put a lot of people out of work.
It's the number one occupation in over half of the states in the United States is a truck driver.
Moving stuff. Yeah.
You know, and I understand that like
It'll start in the cities first, I think. Maybe rural.
I
Maybe
don't
it'll
think
start
so. I think
rural first.
interstate commerce is what it's going to start, but it's a little scary because it's going to happen all at once. I don't think these people are going to.
Well, they have the Tesla trucks now that have self-driving features, but they don't do it.
Right.
They have it built in.
Yeah, but I
you
mean,
can't use it all the time.
You know, it's interesting
Yeah.
because like the ability to get on Amazon and order something and it's going to be there in 2 days and you order it
2 days Prime.
China
well,
or
in some
whatever.
places you get it the same day.
But it's I mean, it's like you order it and you held your hand out, but and it's there. But all that's done through our advanced transportation
Right, through our-
systems,
right,
right? Because we're
right.
moving all these goods.
Through
And
our
the irony of it is
logistics,
technology is
yes.
going to replace the jobs because we have this expectation that we should get something or we want it now.
Well,
Yeah.
well, imagine this though. So instead of being a truck driver, maybe you might transition into another logistical thing. Like, all right, so you're not a truck driver, but you are going to go work in an Amazon warehouse. And right now we're seeing that Amazon are like severely mistreating their warehouse
They have
workers.
been for a long, long
Yeah, so it's really taking like a lot of your autonomy away as an individual, and in this one sense, and it's just like the time is compact where this transition is going to take place. It scares me. Like we can take another field where people have actually been out of jobs, and since the same guy that says you're an enemy of the people said that he was going to like bring their jobs back, but coal miners had 70 years to transition to another natural gas or green energy or whatever. There's still coal mines in
Beautiful,
production.
Clean coal.
So until
But
the
it's been-
marketplace forces that shift,
yeah,
it's
but
not going
it's
to happen. Or
but
government policy.
it has been shifting for like 70 years now. But this truck driving thing, like this automation, it's only going to be just a fraction of a second. I don't know how.
5 years.
Yeah, it's so scary
Once
to
they
me.
figure it out, once
Like
they
I,
get all the
and
legislation.
like I said, I am a
passed.
pessimist, but it just is. It does kind
I
of
just
freak
have a
me
feeling
out.
it won't take that long to do the automated trucking legislation. It's going to take them about.
Well, and the insurance
Yeah.
companies will probably drive it because it's going to reduce their costs.
It's going to reduce their
But,
costs tremendously.
I mean, there is a part of me that I've worked with computers, for half of my career, and they sure can fail.
yeah, yeah.
I guess the way I look at it is there will be failures, but there'll probably be far few failures than there will be
Yeah.
human-caused crashes that we have
that's the big
now.
argument.
Right.
That's the big argument is that humans are
Very fallible.
very, very fallible, and computers are getting less and less so. To where it's the balance, it's like yes, there are going to be accidents, and that's what I've always said. is
There will be. They'll just be far
people
fewer.
tout these accidents of them running over pedestrians, and they say this is dangerous, and it's like, no, that's just a glitch. We're gonna have to. It's gonna happen.
People run over pedestrians all the time.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
We just gotta figure it out.
But that's a thing of agency too. Like if a person runs over a pedestrian, then they go to jail. They stand up for their actions. But when a
If a
computer,
runs over a person.
who's going to go to jail for that fatality? That's another sort of a quandary of the technology.
Yeah, well, it's right there in the Constitution. You have the right to sue them, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, that is a fundamental right.
Yeah.
And you can say what you want about litigation and tort and all those kinds of things.
Yeah,
but it is a balance.
You can sue somebody, but at the end of the day, that person's still dead.
It is. He is. She is. Yes.
They are. Yeah.
But. Yeah. Well,
I don't know. It's a weird.
That's
thing.
a rabbit hole.
Yeah, and
So the point being that by having that power, the right to litigate somebody, to sue them, then it acts as a checks and balances for safety. Because if a jury decides that we're gonna it's going to cost you $1 kajillion, you're going to be like, well, maybe we should do something so this doesn't happen again.
Absolutely.
And we've seen that over and
over again. It's a self-correcting thing.
Yeah, it is a mechanism.
Yeah. And to kind of bring it full circle, too, it's like, that's just one many things, but it's it feels like a roller coaster we're on sometimes with technology, and you should probably see it, too, a lot, like all these bots, all these Russian bots, these troll farms, all this interference and stuff like that. I mean, that's got to be very concerning for you, being in the media.
Well, sure. I mean, I think it's just, trying to wrap your head around that and that even happens. And I think people, my age and what have you, were kind of like, what? I mean, so you got to fight that.
Outlandish.
But I get it. I mean, I can, there are smart people who can do smart things. I get that. And it's, again, I think it gets down to being if all you're doing is looking at comments on something or just because it appears somewhere and you read it doesn't make it a fact, doesn't make it true, doesn't even mean it's something you should pay attention to. Yeah. I think you have to go a little, you have to seek, if you want to know, you have to seek it. You have to put a little skin in the game in there, and because it's out there. I mean, there are people who work really hard to try and make sure that the truth gets out. Yeah. And
there's people that work really hard to spread false information too.
Yeah, it's a battle.
Yeah.
It is a battle out there.
Well, let's say you're trying to fight the good fight, or you have been.
I wrote a song called "The Good Fight."
Well, I guess we'll round it off there and call it the end. But I was going to ask you if I can use Buffalo Blonde songs for this one.
Of course.
Awesome. I got some favorites I'm going to throw in there.
Cool.
Well, everybody, this has been Tom Wright, veteran
journalist,
enemy
of the American people,
and drone operator.
Biggest enemy of our time.
Backpacker. Crybaby. Yes. I know I said
not
that
ashamed.
My friend.
Not ashamed of it, my friend.
Thanks for coming, man.
You bet.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It was a pleasure to meet you. Yeah.
You too.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thanks for listening.
And that was the episode.
Yeah. Special thanks to Tom Wright. Thank you for being a guest and coming here and doing this crazy thing.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was good to get to actually hang out and talk to him about a couple different things and catch up and talk about crime.
Yeah, that was a turn. Also, a special shout out to our patrons, Jordan, Lance, Brian, Doug. We really appreciate you guys for holding it down.
We actually made our first monthly bill payment with Patreon funds.
Yeah,
and that's a monument to me.
That's a big milestone for us too. You guys really help us do what we do. Also, if you find yourself in a position where you can help us out, or maybe you enjoy what we do and we give you guys some free entertainment all the time, you can head over to patreon.com/A-to-Z-BMT and just donate whatever you can, and we would really appreciate it. We'll give you a shout out at the end of every episode, like we did for those guys.
Yeah. And so, with that being said, next episode is going to be featuring Tommy Reed and Eric Adams.
Some of our favorite Silsby boys.
And they're Silsby boys. They're creatives living in Southeast Texas, and they have an interesting story and things to talk about.
Yeah,
so that's about home
yeah, that's going to be another interesting episode, kind of like today's, how this episode was kind of almost like split in half in sort of tones. That's how theirs is going to be. Tommy he's set up a home recording studio in Silsby, and Eric, he does visual arts. So it does kind of lend itself to a diversity of topics.
Yeah. So thank you guys. Thanks for listening and continuing to listen.
Yeah, we appreciate y'all. Come on back now, you hear?